It's a huge honor for me today to have Arjan Singh, also known as GymSingh, colloquially on Instagram and on YouTube as well. Before we get into the video, please smash the like button, leave a comment, subscribe. You doing these things helps the channel out massively. It helps the video get to more people so that more people can benefit from this content. So thank you in advance for that. You haven't had that long in powerlifting, right?
No. It's only been 2 months. And it's been a crazy 2 months because the space between the two competitions was quite short, so very minimal prep time for each one.
Yeah, which is quite it's nice to get people at different stages in their journey. But how did that come about in terms of going from because usually you have blocks of training before you peak for competition, right?
Yeah. Initially, the first competition was kind of like no prep. So I literally, one of my friends, he lives in Derby, and he trains at, do you know GAD Gym?
Yeah.
He trains there, and he was doing a powerlifting meet, and he just messaged me, and he was like, I'm doing a powerlifting meet. And then I went down to train with him once just to show him, because I've always been interested in powerlifting, and I think I have a decent amount of knowledge in the actual sport. So I was just, because he's younger than me, I see him as like a little brother, and I was just showing him the techniques and stuff like that. And then I thought to myself, okay, how about if I just do it with him, you know? So we did our first powerlifting meet, which was the 11th of July. And then because of the COVID situation, we automatically qualified for the Euros, which was the 11th of September. So literally 1 month. And in that space of a month, I kind of got down with how to train in that type of way, powerlifting like training. So I wouldn't say I had a block training for a month, basically. That first powerlifting comp was just go there and just basically treat it like a 1 rep max on each of my lifts, like I would in the gym if I was to test out my 1 rep max. So that first competition was kind of that. But I was really upset that I couldn't perform a lot better for my first powerlifting comp. My dad always says as well, just do what you want to do, you know, just don't think about it. Don't wait till you're ready, you know, so just go for it. So I just went for it, you know. That's kind of.
And I've never done powerlifting. So what's your experience of that community and that competition? For my first competition, it's like, it was kind of, I was very nervous. Like, I was really nervous. Like, my dad could tell that I was nervous, and he was there to kind of sort everything out. He was kind of the brains behind that day. I was kind of just there to lift what he chose, the numbers and stuff like that. He thought, okay, I'll help you out a bit more there. But I was very nervous for my first competition. But then for my second, it was just like I knew what to do. So it's just about getting it done. And I performed a lot better. But there's definitely more to come for my next comp. The atmosphere's pretty crazy. Like, people are lifting a lot of weight as well. Like, seeing somebody lift that much weight, it just makes you have more of a drive. What's your experience of racism?
Yeah. So my experience with racism, as a youngster, I grew up. To start with, I was born in Birmingham, and then I moved into like the countryside. So there was a lot of Gordon there, and it was a very small village. So I went to this school, and I experienced racism as a child. But my dad has always said to me, like, okay, if somebody's being racist, and he physically like tried to grab the star. So he said, don't ever tolerate that. So I just, I know you shouldn't go straight to violence, but as a kid I didn't know better, and I just straight up hit him in the face. So since then, every other person in that village didn't really give me that much hassle after that, because they knew that, okay, he's a bit of a nutter, innit? So if you try and touch his the start or say anything like that. And funny enough, the teacher at that school, normally if there was a fight, the teacher would have both in detention, but they actually called him into detention and made him read a book about Sikhi. So it was actually really good in that part. Well done to the teachers for that. But yeah, I've experienced a decent amount of racism. But as I've got older, I feel like everyone kind of does their own thing. Yeah, with the racism, I haven't actually experienced it a lot myself. I know, obviously, coming from Birmingham, my dad and like that generation above him as well, they experienced a lot more racism. Yeah, I understand that it's still alive today, and that it's something that the world is getting better with, but you're always going to have it around, if you know what I mean. It's never going to be gone. I don't think so, because you're always going to have that different mindset.
Do you have any advice to kids, school age, who are worried about it or going through it?
Yeah. So if you were to look at it from an outside perspective, a kid who is growing up and experiencing bullying or experiencing racism on a regular occasion, then I would say the first protocol is tell someone, because if you don't tell anybody, nobody's going to know. And it's not a fact that it is a very hard thing to, first of all, tell somebody to that's what's going on, because it's easier said than done. But if you're getting bullied, you wouldn't really want anyone else to know that you're getting bullied, kind of thing. But the first thing to do is either tell someone, whether that's a friend or your parents. Parents are probably not the best people to tell. You might want to go to like an uncle or something, And then second thing to do is obviously learn self-defense. We've been taught that, especially in Sikhi, we've been taught that straight from the get-go. A lot of guys will be massive guys, but they won't know how to fight. And if you don't know how to fight, then you won't. Like, it's a very big part of our culture, our Sikhi, to have that fighters aspect, So I'll say go to find your local either wrestling, MMA, boxing, or even the gym in general. Like, make sure you get your cardios up there as well. So prepare yourself properly, so then you can fight back if that's an option for you to do, So I always say fight back. I would never say push it to the side and don't worry about it. I'll say, first of all, it's your parents, and your parents will probably say teacher, and then go from there the proper way. But all in all, if that doesn't work, then you're going to have to stick up for yourself eventually,
When I was in Bedford, I had these neighbours who were racist, and one day we just ended up having a brawl in the street. Yeah, and after that, no one bothered me again.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah.
And I also had a staff who looked very intimidating. So I think because of the dog, and because people thought I was a bit crazy, they kind of backed off, which I think, although it's maybe not the best advice, I always told my son, if somebody hits you, you should hit them back.
Yeah. True. Yeah.
I think that's probably a quick way to stop a bully, because bullies, they want an easy target. They want someone who's not going to fight back. Yeah,
definitely.
So,
yeah.
A lot of Uppany are quite timid as well, and reserved, and they don't have that. They don't feel confident in their own skin. They maybe aren't as gregarious and social, and have massive groups that they're hanging around with if they're in a predominantly white school. So they are targets.
A lot of bullies, they bully because they've been bullied, or something's going on with them either at home and stuff like that. So it's not always a fact that a bully would just pick on somebody randomly. He'll pick on somebody obviously who can't defend himself, and then if let's say the bully gets picked on for being fat, he will then bully somebody either skinny or fat, you know? You wouldn't, like, that's mainly what would go on, you know? So you got to deal with it in a certain way where you could, like, stop it straight away, you know? Instead of, because like, if you could just fight that person back, but then what's stopping them bullying you again? And are you willing to fight every weekend? Because you know, you wouldn't probably do that, you know? So you got to think of other ways around it at the same time.
Yeah, that's true. I say to my son that hurt people hurt people. So if someone's been hurt in their lives, then they tend to try and hurt other people to compensate for what they've gone through.
Mm-hmm. So I made the GymSingh kind of page to kind of vlog what I can do, you know, and it's not really GymSingh is me. It's kind of like GymSingh can be anybody, any Singh that goes to the gym, you know. So that's what I try and push across, that like I see myself in a little Singh that's 14 years old that's starting the gym. I can see myself in that Singh, you know. So I try and always help out when I can.
So you're vegetarian, right?
Yeah, fully vegetarian. Yeah.
There's a lot of stigma around being vegetarian. Vegetarians can't be strong, and I saw your lifts in terms of your deadlift is what, 240 kg or something? Yeah.
Well, if I talk about diet, I'll probably get, like, people will probably be like, "Whoa, you don't know nothing." But I don't actually know a lot about diet. I calorie count, and I'm not going to lie to you, that's about it. I calorie count, and I make sure I drink enough milk, have enough nuts, and have all the essentials, really. But then after I've done eating all that, if I've got any calories left, I don't mind going for like some chocolate crisps or whatever, because like at the end of it, I know when it comes to prep before a competition, I'll obviously dial it in a lot more. But off season, I don't really diet as much. It's kind of a thing where if you train hard and heavy, and you're getting the right amount of nutrients inside of your body and stuff, I don't see an issue in you not getting stronger, you know, especially if you're starting out, because newbie gains, they're probably the best gains you're probably going to make. So if you're if you're naturally a skinny guy, fast metabolism, I'll say it is very, personally, I've never experienced that. I'd say I'm kind of like a endomesomorph, but if you're a guy with a fast metabolism, I'd say you have to eat a lot. So especially as a veggie, you know, because I think eating meat and eggs and stuff, that's kind of like eating the same food that you'll get from nuts, but it's just like quicker to cook and more accessible, you know, for people. That's why they lean towards having chicken. But there's loads of other things that you could eat as a vegetarian to get stronger. There's a whole palette of stuff. I know you've done a podcast with Veggie Gains. His Instagram shows you quite a lot about what there is for us to eat, especially, and he cuts back the calories quite a lot. So if you look at his foods that he shows, they're low calorie meals. So yeah, big prop to him. But personally, for me, I know that if I had my diet in check 100% of the time, I can achieve a lot more, you know. So I haven't reached my full potential, if you put it that way. So I still got to come a long way, you know.
Yeah, I think it's encouraging for vegetarians to know that you can be muscular, you can be strong, and be a vegetarian, because people might want to do that for religious or cultural or moral reasons, or to do with the environment. True. Mm-hmm. So I think it's encouraging to know, because when I went to university, you know, it wasn't as popular than veganism and vegetarianism and the whole climate change movement. So if you were muscular and you were vegetarian, people thought they thought it was impossible. They thought you needed to eat meat to have muscles. So I think it's important to try and break that paradigm, which is false.
Mm-hmm. True.
So if you're hard gainer, you're saying you have to really focus on eating a lot of calories. I think a lot of hard gainers do do try and do that, but they still struggle. So do you have any tips for hard gainers?
For me to gain a lot of weight, what I was doing was I was eating a lot before I sleep. So your body's actually, it's still breaking down that food, but it's not on the go. So you'll absorb a lot of that food. I don't know, this could be definitely bro science. I'm not actually highly educated on diets, but I found that eating in the evening to put on weight was a big yes, you know. So eating like 20 minutes, 30 minutes before you go to sleep, and you could obviously have mass gainers and stuff like that, but realistically you can't beat real food. And if you're eating, I'd rather you eat more real food than, well, I say real food because everything's processed in Tesco, you know. But
I know what you mean.
Yeah. So I'd rather you have like a bowl of badam or something like that before you go to sleep or something, instead of having a mass gainer. But obviously have the mass gainer shakes as well. They're not obviously, they've got a lot of calories in as well. Anything else that I could say?
I agree. I think you're better off having a smoothie with like almond butter, peanut butter, porridge oats, you know, some berries, a banana, you know, soya milk or cow's milk. You're better off having that than you are, in my opinion, having a mass gainer, because you've got vitamins and minerals in their natural, you know, chemical compositions, as opposed to synthetic versions, which are 5 times, 10 times the price. And things work synergistically. So when you have a blueberry, for example, there's lots of compounds in the blueberry that work, but they don't necessarily work in isolation. It's when you have that food as a whole that it's most potent. I think the closer you can get back to the source.
Like my dad, he wouldn't ever buy mass gainer. We'd never buy mass gainers. We always go with whey isolate and then mix in oats with it. And he once I was like, oh, okay, let's get some mass gainer. I need to get bigger. This was like 2017, 18, and he got the whey isolate, put 2 scoops of oats in, shook it, and said, there you go, there's your mass gainer. You know, so that is having oats and whey isolate. That would be your equivalent to a mass gainer. You know.
Yeah, and if you look at the ingredients of the mass gainer, that, you know, the primary ingredients. So when you have ingredient list, the major composition of the food will be listed first. So if it says like, you know, sugar, hydrolyzed whey, oats, then oats are the least in that, and then sugar is the highest. So if you make something with your own composition, you'll always see with mass gainers, they will use things like oats, they will use things like whey too. So if you can break that down to yourself for less money and have less additives and preservatives and all the other chemicals, then it's a no-brainer. But I guess all of these things take time, energy, and it's about mental friction as well. If someone's struggling to cook and make food, and it's easier for them to have a supplement than a protein shake, then it's better than not having anything. If you're trying to gain.
If you're trying to gain,
People on the other side of the spectrum, people are really trying to. I'm thinking about the younger generation. You know, they're trying to. They got gynecomastia, like, you know, like male breasts. And they got a belly, and a lot of vegetarians want to get rid of their belly. They don't want like a gyani dead and stuff. So any tips for that?
The most results I've seen is when I go into a calorie deficit, and I think a lot of people say you don't need to calorie count, but I think that's one of the best ways to lose weight in general. Obviously, you're never going to get rid of one specific area in your body, so everywhere's going to kind of shrink. So you never like you can keep a decent amount of your shoulders, your arms, your chest if you're training and you want to just lose the stomach, for example, but you are going to lose weight everywhere. And man, I've got high estrogen, so like I know that I've got high estrogen because I hold a lot of fat around my I don't know whether I've got gyno, but like I've got a little bit of it. Like I can feel it because I know most of my family have gynecomastia, and like we've got, I don't know whether it's genetic or anything like that, but a lot of Upper do have it. It's through puberty, I know that, but I never fixed it, you know? Like I never, I was always a person to eat calorie surplus, and I've never done, like, I've never done a cut to that extent where you can see my six pack. I've never done that. So for me to give advice on that, it would be pretty silly, but for my recent competition, I had to cut down by 4 kilos in like 2 weeks because I wanted to go into under 90s, which was a stupid thing for me to do, you know. But I was already cutting at the time because from lockdown. I thought, man, I'm a bit too fat at the moment. So I was already cutting, and I cut from, I think I was like 95 kilo down to 94 and then 93. And then I cut down to like, I think I was like 88.6 at my first comp. So wow. I cut down a lot in a short amount of time, but it's not the best way to do, but I was running off like 2,100 calories, it's not that bad for my height as well and my age. So it's not too much of a calorie deficit.
So you recommend calorie counting whether you're trying to lose or gain, right? Because with gain, it would be the same thing. Right?
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
I think the hard gainers I've spoken to, they feel like they're eating a lot and they're not gaining weight, but with a lot, and the vice versa for people trying to lose weight. But I think there's a saying in business that what doesn't get monitored doesn't get managed.
Yeah,
unless you objectively know what you're eating, it's easy to fool ourselves and think, well, with every, like my mom, she'll say, you know, "Maata kuch khandi nahi, mera baal pata nahi kate, badi janda and stuff." And I'm like, Mom, that's it's basic biochemistry. That doesn't happen. You can't gain weight from not eating.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
So it is important to monitor if you are not making the progress that you want to.
Yeah.
Your goals are quite inspiring because I looked at your Instagram stories and you had goals in terms of your lifts.
Yeah.
You already reached, and you were saying before you died, and you already reached your deadlift goal. So what's the role of goal setting in your life, and how does that help?
So I've always loved being strong, especially when it kind of spiked off when, because I used to play rugby when I was younger, and do you know Tigers, Leicester Tigers? They had like an academy team. Do you know Leicester Tigers? I don't think.
Wow.
They had an academy team, and I was in that academy team throughout my childhood, and then they kind of let me go because they kind of said, we can teach a person how to play rugby, but we can't teach a person how to be big, you know, and strong. So that's where my thing was. I kind of went into the gym after that, and not to kind of say, okay, I'll show you, but kind of like I just realized, I am quite a skinny guy, you know. I was in the middle. I was like skinny fat. So I started lifting, and I think my first deadlift was like in 2016. I think I was, just turned 16, and I think I deadlift like 160. So off the bat,
wow.
I was kind of, maybe my numbers are wrong. Maybe it was 140 on my first deadlift session. And then in September 2016, I remember posting me doing 160. So off the bat, I was kind of like gifted in the deadlift, and I was like, whoa, what? That shouldn't work, because obviously now I've researched it, and my arms are small. Like, I've got short, stocky arms. So I'm thinking, how am I managed to deadlift that? I should be a good bencher, but I'm not. So it's kind of weird. I think it's to do with my glutes and my hamstrings. I got very strong glutes and hamstrings. But my squat's always been the weakest out of the three lifts. The goal setting came from, I don't know, to be honest. I've always had that gym bro thing of, okay, bench 2 plates, bench 3 plates, squat 4 plates, deadlift 5 plates. So originally it was deadlift 5 plates, squat 4 plates, bench 3 plates, which is stupid because bench is my weakest. So I'm still not at the bench 3 plates yet, but I'm right around the corner. So that's coming soon. and then it would be, the next one would be deadlift, 5.5, then squat 4.5, and bench 3.5, which is ridiculous because 160 is a ridiculous bench for me, and a 200 squat is kind of out there reaching, but I know I can reach that, you know. It's all a numbers game really, powerlifting. You just gotta, like, your percentages and training and everything, it's all to do with numbers, and I kind of like that in a way, you know, to to look at what I was doing back then, and then hopefully I really want to get 6 plates on the deadlift, a 260 deadlift, because then that means I would have started at 160 and I would be at 100 kilos more on my deadlift than when I first started, you know. So that's kind of a thing I really want to do, and aesthetically it looks good as well, you know. To have 6 kilos on the
I think
deadlift.
it's amazing. I think my I don't think my PB is 160, and that's after years of training.
Yeah.
So it's amazing.
But everyone's obviously on a different level. Like there's people way stronger than me as well, you know. So that's where I draw my inspiration mainly from Sikhi, so Bandar Singh Bahadur and Baba Deep Singh. They're probably the 1 and 2 that I draw the most inspiration from, and just like, you couldn't fathom how strong they could have been, and this is like with no PED use, you know, and like literally eating like from wilderness, you know. So, and we've got all these luxuries now, and how can we not be the strongest we possibly can be, you know? It's kind of like, I don't know, that's what I think. I think everything should have a certain amount of sports qualities in his daily lifestyle, you know. So if a guy can run for a distance of time, that's just as good as somebody who can deadlift a certain amount, you know. So yeah, everyone's on a different paths, you know.
I think it's quite shameful when, you know, as singers we can't even get up the stairs without getting out of breath, or we can't even, you know, like when our wives can do more press ups than us, or I think we should have a basic level of health and fitness.
Definitely, yeah.
Even if it's just to prevent illness like heart attacks, diabetes, knee arthritis, back pain. You know, if you're not doing any exercise and you're sitting all day, you're going to get health issues.
Yeah, definitely. And taking lifting too far could also have negative side effects, you know. So like if you're pushing yourself too much, then your body's going to tell you that you're pushing yourself too much, and eventually you're going to either have to take time off, or if you're going to push through that, you have permanent injury, you know. So as you said, arthritis. I feel like I've got arthritis now, you know. At my age, at 21, I feel like my knees are clicking and like my wrists are clicking and stuff like that. But that's part of the game, really. I know that to be a powerlifter for a certain amount of time, if you're doing it right, you'll be okay. If you're doing it wrong, you're gonna be out of the sport within like 3 years. Like literally, you won't be able to compete for more than 3 years without, if you're doing everything wrong. You know, it'll break you just trying to get strong with having the bad techniques. You know, so but yeah, I totally agree. With
technique from?
Technique, I think it was self-taught. Not, I can't say completely self-taught, because my dad had a training partner, and he was like a big guy. Well, when I was younger, he was a big guy. Now he's stopped training because he's had a kid, but so he's not as big as me. Well, he's still probably genetically, he's still probably way bigger than me. But he taught us quite a lot, and I'll say online. So it would have to be Larry Wheels. His videos are good. Elite FTS, do you know about them? They're a good podcast. So they do podcasts as well. I just listen to that in my spare time. So they teach you a lot about loads of things. There's loads of things on YouTube, because I like watching YouTube. Then I do read some articles and stuff and programs and stuff like that. But mainly it's YouTube because I learn from listening or seeing, you know. But that's where I learn most of the stuff.
I'll link to those in the description box.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to check those out.
Yeah, definitely.
And your content's really good as well. I've been enjoying your content.
Thank you. But the YouTube content that I've posted, when I was a kid, I used to think that was right. And now that I look at them videos of me giving advice then, I don't regret it, but I think, God, that guy doesn't know that much, you know? And that's always going to change. Like, maybe I'll listen to this podcast and be like, man, that guy didn't know what he was on about, you know? So it's always gonna change, you know? You're always going to get more knowledge.
An evolution. I mean, we're going to be changing for as long as we're alive. And but it's nice to have those timestamps and look back at, okay, before I had kids, before I was married, this is what my mindset was, this is what my lifts were, this is where I was at. And to see how that progresses, and I feel like everyone's on their own individual journey. As long as you're progressing on your journey in whatever shape that may be, emotionally, physically, spiritually, then you know it's all good. How do you get away from like ego lifting? And you know, like anyone who's trained for a while has obviously done it sensibly. Otherwise, they probably would have gone for a month and curled up some disc. So. How do you get away from that whole ego lifting, and you know there's another guy in the gym and you want to lift more than he does and all that kind of stuff?
I suppose ego lifting is like, I don't really know. I've done it, you know, and in the gym everyone is probably gone through a phase of ego lifting, you know. Just when you need that person by your side to say, okay, don't do that, because if you don't have that, then you are gonna, because of like testosterone, you're gonna try and lift more than the guy next to you, especially if you're at similar levels. Now, if there's a guy benching 4 plates and you're sat there with your 2 plates, you're not gonna try and challenge that and try and ego lift and lift more. But doing stuff recently, I'd say a lot more people are trying to ego lift to show something for the internet, you know? So you can't really get away from ego lifting. I suppose it depends how bad it is. Like, if you're ego lifting every session and the form's terrible, you're gonna break yourself, definitely. To get away from that, I think eventually you'll learn not to do stupid things, you know? And you'll kind of manage yourself a lot better. Because I've been a victim of ego lifting, definitely. Because I would look at my previous videos and be like, yeah, that guy's just yanking it up because he, like, I don't know, he's just trying to be as strong as he can, but he doesn't know nothing about taking like this much rest. Because on deadlifts, I used to only take a week off, but now I take 10 days off because I know my body needs more than a week rest at each session, because I don't know whether it's because of the load that I'm taking, but yeah, you definitely learn. But to have somebody there to tell you don't lift that, or calm down a little bit here, or even the opposite, to push you a lot more, it's very good to have a training partner. I would say that's the number one thing. But training on your own, it depends what type of personality you've got, you know. But eventually I think you'll get bored of ego lifting. But yeah, and maybe.
With social media, social media is a bit of it's a bit of a fire, right? You can either use it for warmth or it can burn you. Yeah. I think there's people who be lifting fake weights, like there's athlete next, he got
called out for that. Even Larry has. Yeah.
So it's clearly it's a big thing, right? People want to show
Brad
a lot of plates
Castleberry
on the bar. And, So that's a new phenomenon, right? Because when I was a child, when I was your age, even there wasn't social media. There wasn't like this kind of stuff. It wasn't predominant. There wasn't any of this stuff happening. You just trained by yourself. No one knew about it unless you went for a competition. So I think there's a lot more challenges now to not ego lift, because potentially everyone's watching what you're doing. You've got
true. Yeah,
people spending more time taking selfies in the gym than they have training in some
true
way, shape, or form sometimes.
Yeah, like when I'm in the gym, I expose Dad every time he's on his phone. I'll put it on my story because sometimes he just sits there because there's free Wi-Fi, so he takes advantage of it. So he's like sat there playing his game or whatever, like, you know what I mean. And I'll expose him for that, because it is okay to go on your phone. That's no problem, but to be sat on your phone for like 10 minutes on each exercise, you're not training hard, are you? You're just going there for, I don't know. You can still make decent. Actually, no, you probably can't make decent progress. You probably maintain if you're just training like that. You know, you probably won't rip no 10 muscle fibers.
I have to admit, when I'm doing long runs or long cardio sessions on the treadmill, I will put like a Netflix series on sometimes, and I can vouch for the fact that you don't perform as well as you would if you were focusing on what you're doing. Yeah.
Okay.
So it definitely does have an impact. What's it like training with your dad?
Do you know, it's kind of a thing where back in the day, it used to be, I want to get as strong as my dad, innit? Like, try and lift as much as he can, because when he started training late, so he was a diabetic. Well, he is a diabetic now as well. So he was like 125 kilos in body weight, like just fat, really fat. So throughout my childhood, I've seen him as that. And then he did a cut, and this guy, like Desi style cut, like put a high vis jacket on, just run on the treadmill, and just like diet, and he dropped a lot of weight. He went from 120 down to like 72 kilos. I was like, what? And he's got the skin. He's got the skin to show. You know, he's got all the excess skin. So when he was that body weight, we both joined the gym, and so he's I think he's been training for 6 years. So his early 40s he started training. So he was way stronger than me in the bench and the squat, but the deadlift I've always outdone him. Which he kind of knows that I'm a strong deadlifter, but it's kind of like when we step into the gym, it's training partners. It's not father son, and he's always taught me that way, that you can tell me to get another rep or to do this and do this properly, and why are you joking about, you know, get serious. And then he would do the same to me, and then as soon as we're out of the gym, it's kind of like, okay, don't talk to me like that no more, you know. So it's he's definitely a really good training partner, and I'll give him credit. He's slacking off a little bit, but he used to be on it a lot more. I don't know why, because he recently got COVID, so he's lost quite a decent amount of strength, you know. So I've definitely caught him up and went past him, but he was up here, and I was creeping up because I was only 15, 16, 17, 18, and then 19 we were kind of like same level, both benching near enough the same weight, and then I started to creep above him, and he's always trying to like say, come on, I gotta be at least the same level. But he's obviously gonna start decreasing, as you said that. I think I've read that you lose 1% of your strength every year since your 30s or something like that.
Yeah.
So obviously he's not no Mike O'Hearn or whatever it is. But yeah, so he's probably the best training partner I've had, and he probably will still be my training partner for a very long time. Maybe there's room for a third person, but I don't know. He's took
it's really, as a father, it's kind of like the dream when your son trains with you and you have that kind of relationship and friendship. So have you got any tips for dads out there like me?
So
for having that relationship.
So he told me that his friend said to him, when your son reaches around 16, try and treat him like your younger brother, one of your friends, you know. Instead of treating him like your son all the time, relax up a little bit, you know. And then when he gets to 18, then treat him like your friend, because then that's how you're going to build that bond that you can be more open with the person, you know. So don't always keep him. Obviously, comes a time where you need to discipline your child. Even it doesn't matter whether they're 30 years old or whether they're 15 years old, you know. So there's always a time where you got to tell your son, okay, you can't do that, you know. But yeah, that was one piece of advice that he took on when he was younger, because through my childhood he was always at work, so he kind of didn't really spend that much time with me. But as soon as like I don't know when the point was, but he just started connecting a lot more with me, you know, because you kind of dads, they kind of bring up their children, and then as soon as they turn a certain age, they say, okay, that's it, I've done my job, you know. But it shouldn't be like that. You should always be involved. And I think we've got a lot more in common than we thought we would, you know. And he's always taken up my obviously my best interest, but also my interest, you know. So like if I was, and I would do the same for him. So he knew how to renovate houses, so I was like, okay, I'll do it with you. And then same for him. Okay, you want to start this GymSingh page? Okay, I'll do it with you. I'll record your videos. You know, I'll record them with you. You want to do your competition? Okay, I'll come with you and do that. You know, so it's always been a thing that he would never like stop me from doing something that I really want to do. So I'll give him that. He's top tier.
That's really sweet.
Yeah.
What one piece of advice would you give to someone? The tagline of this show is inspiring the next generation. So if you could give one piece of advice to another individual, what would it be?
For the youth, you talking gym related or just in general?
Anything you want.
Oh, you hit me with a hard question here. I would say.
You can take your time because it will be. I can edit out the pause. So
okay.
If you want a minute to think about it, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, I'll probably say, if you've got something in mind that you want to do, just do it. You know, just go for it, because you don't know obviously how much time you've got, and if you really want to achieve something, you got to get a crack on and start doing it, because you're going to have hurdles, and if you go for it, you got to give it 100%. And if something crops up or pops up and it stops you from doing what you wanted to do, then you got to accept that, you know, it's what God's put in line for you. But at least you gave it a go. Like, you know what I mean? You let's say you were trying to I don't know, sell, what have I got here? Sell like some deep heat. I don't know. I just got it here. Let's say you're trying to sell that. You're trying to make enough money, and you want to get £1 million. If you focus 100% and strive towards that, maybe in the first year you might make £1,000. In the second year you might make, let's say you make £5,000. At least you're closer to that million than you was sitting on the sofa before thinking about, okay, I want to do this, you know? So at least you're one step closer. Maybe you made your first £10,000 and then all of a sudden, oh my God, my supplier's not giving me what I need anymore, and something's happened. At least you gave it a go, and you'll die knowing that you tried, innit? Yeah, I'll say that's the biggest advice.
Amazing. And where can people connect with you?
I'm always active on social media, so Instagram is the number one, and I'll say I don't go on Snapchat. Twitter I don't go on. Probably just Instagram, really. Yeah, Instagram and YouTube. But it's been a pleasure being on this podcast.
Yeah, it's been a really nice conversation. I've really enjoyed it. I really appreciate your time. I know you've just come back from working all night, so it's very much.
No worries, man.
Very much.
Make sure you guys subscribe. Make sure you hit the like button. You know, we want to get 10K on this channel easy. I can see it going that way. You know, these podcasts are brilliant. 100% like you're doing something amazing.